All right, Nick, let's talk about the Las Vegas Raiders. It's pretty much free agency season, like 2 days away, technically, but we are seeing the moves happen in droves. They are flying across the screen. You could probably not even keep up with them with how fast information has been flying in lately. And underneath the mist of everything, you might have missed it, but Raiders fans probably don't. They made a really smart signing, brought back one of their own. We think this is an absolutely fantastic move by the Raiders. We'll get into that in just a minute. But first, I'm Andrew. That's Nick, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, Nick, as I alluded to, the Raiders bringing back one of their own. We thought this was one of the better moves that we have seen this early free agency period, so to speak. And I think that Malcolm Koonce is a fantastic re-signing for the Raiders. We loved Koonce in 2023 when he showed kind of what he was capable of. Such a great player. Let's get into the article and we can talk more about it. On the other side, this is from NBC Sports, and it says, according to multiple reports, the Raiders have agreed to re-sign Malcolm Koonce. It is set to be a one-year, $12 million deal. Koonce, who was a 2021 third-round pick, is coming off of a knee injury that kept him from playing at all during the 2024 season. He had 43 tackles, 8 sacks, and 17 quarterback hits, and forced 3 fumbles while appearing in every game during the 2023 season. Those are fantastic numbers, and I think the Raiders got a benefit here. No one saw him play in 2024. They were to swoop in, re-sign him to a pretty good deal as well. Curious what your thoughts are on this one, Nick, but before we get to you, Raiders fans, in the comment section below, let us know your thoughts. Free agency period, there could be like 5 moves that happened since we post this video already, so just keep your eyes peeled and let us know, what are your thoughts on everything Raiders so far? What do you think of the moves they've made, re-signings, people that have left, people that are coming? Let us know your grade on this free agency period so far in the comment section below. Is it an A? Do you love it? Is it a C? You're mediocre. They need to make a couple more moves, but maybe they will. And then, or is it an F? I doubt it, but let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. But nonetheless, Nick, what do you think about this latest re-signing of Malcolm Koonce?
Yeah, so we've covered Koonce for a long time. Like we called him a breakout star way back in 2023. We were breaking down his film and we're like, holy smokes, this guy has great stats. He's coming into his own, but his film is at a whole nother level. Like he's becoming an absolute superstar opposite of Max Crosby. And going into the 2024 season, we thought, and along with I think a lot of other people that studied this Raiders team, that the pairing of Crosby and Koonce, the addition of Wilkins, this was going to be a top 5 front four in the AFC, and they were going to be a force to be reckoned with. Unfortunately, the injury to Koonce missing the entire year, and then the injury to Wilkins, and then the injury to Crosby kind of derailed that dream. But Koonce, when healthy in 2023, was an absolute beast in terms of his pass rushing ability, off the charts. Great speed move, but had the ability to go speed to power. Great effort player, high intensity, just everything you want. The injury, of course, is a big question mark. It's obviously historically possible to recover from that major injury. Literally dozens of people have done it, maybe hundreds at this point, but it still is a red flag. So the Raiders do a smart thing here by managing some of their downside risk in terms of not throwing a whole bunch of money at Koonce, but I honestly think it's worth it. I think he's going to have a great year in 2025, and then the Raiders are going to re-up him again after that because he has that chance. He has that big of a chance to become a superstar. Let's jump into some of the data real quick, Miles, if you don't mind throwing it up on the screen here, talking about Koonce. Again, he's 26 years old. He's an edge defender. The stats below this, according his PFF grades, according to Pro Football Focus, are from the 2023 season, since he obviously missed the 2024 season due to injury. His overall grade was 81.3. His pass rush grade is 78.9. His run defense grade was 66.3. Now, for any of you who aren't familiar with PFF's grading system, basically how it works is this. If you're in the 60s, that's a starter. If you're in the 70s, that's a very solid starter. That's a good player. If you're in the 80s, that's like a Pro Bowler. That's like a really like star. And 90s is like Hall of Fame kind of stuff. So if you look at Koonce's numbers there, you can say, okay, he's a starter as a run defender. He is a solid starter to growing star, about 79 in terms of his pass rush grade, and his overall grade just north of 80 there, right? So we're talking about a star, a young budding star for this Raiders team. And the fact they were able to get him for, again, just 12 million against the cap, especially considering their cap situation, The only thing I don't like about this deal is I wish the Raiders, part of me wishes, because I'm such a big fan of Malcolm Koonce, if they didn't lock him up for more years. Now, like I said, I get why it's risk mitigation, and that's the smart approach to take. But look, this is Koonce is going to be a special player. I think you look at Crosby's mega deal, of course. You look at Wilkins. You look at, of course, the moves they made on offense. This is a team loading up. They obviously made all the big headlines involving the quarterback position a few days ago. But I think when you look at this Raiders team and where they're heading in the future, all eyes are on the offense with the moves they've been making and Tom Brady, of course, but really this defense. And people forget Pete Carroll, defensive guy, right? Obviously made his bones as a defensive coach. And even with the Seattle Seahawks, the Legion of Boom, even with the USC Trojans in college, even though he had Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart, Carson Palmer, they had a really stacked defense. Carroll loves defense. The Raiders are going to be really good defensively this season. Bringing back Malcolm Koonce, I think, is probably one of the bigger steals anyone has made. I was looking to see who was going to sign Koonce, so we were going to do a video regardless who signed Koonce because that's how good of a player this guy is. It's a phenomenal job by the Raiders keeping him in-house. And Raider Nation, you guys should be stoked. I'm going to keep saying it because it's so true. He is one heck of a player.
Yeah, Nick, I agree with you. I think this is a really solid move and kind of reminiscent of, undersized like edge rushers that Pete Carroll's liked in the past and he's used really well in the past. And this one, this guy's a little bit bigger, but you get the comparison. It kind of reminds me of like Michael Bennett a little bit from the Seahawks, a guy who's a little bit undersized, did a lot of great things as well. I think Malcolm Koonce with Pete Carroll will know exactly how to use a guy like that to his fullest potential. And I think everything coming in, we're getting what we didn't get last year. I think that's what's coming into perspective now is Crosby's back, Wilkins back, Koonce is back. Everybody's together on this defensive front again. And I think we're going to see what we wanted from last year. And I think we're going to get to see it with a whole lot better team. You see all the moves that the Raiders have been making this offseason. I mean, it's fantastic. Obviously, Koonce coming back is great. Yeah, Geno Smith. There's a lot of other guys sprinkled in here already. This is just a team making a lot of good moves. And what it speaks to me is there's a lot of confidence in this team as far as they feel like they were just a couple pieces away from win now. This is a team that brought back Koonce. They thought maybe last year, if he was healthy, this defense was going to be fantastic. It was going to be a killer defense that they were able to get. And I think we're seeing this now. The Raiders are pulling in pieces on defense. They're pulling in pieces on offense and showing that this team is not that far off. This is a team that's ready to come in, ready to dominate, do good things. I expect this team, honestly, with Pete Carroll, with what Tom Brady's been doing, the front office spy tech, all of these pieces so far, I expect this team to contend for the playoffs this year. I think that it's already showing that they are capable of doing just that. Pete Carroll, he's getting his guys. Malcolm Koonce seems to be one of those guys already. Everybody likes him. They're able to sneak under the radar, bring him in. It's like you said. We thought Malcolm Koonce, whoever got him, would be good. So for the Raiders to be able to get that deal done and bring him back, that just shows how much they value him as well. They saw the same things that we were seeing in this Raiders team. I'm really getting excited about it. The pieces are coming together. I think maybe 1-2 pieces away, maybe a receiver they could use, maybe another corner. But outside of that, this team is looking very, very good right now.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said there. And this is sort of the goal of the Raiders. We talked about this earlier this offseason multiple times, is to get back to winning games and competing for playoff position, which they haven't done for most of the better part of the last, 23 years since 2002. Obviously, had a couple of years when they made the playoffs and were close. But the reality is they've been perennially a 5-12 kind of team, right? And we thought hopefully that the Antonio Pierce new mentality that we were going to see in 2024 would change that. It unfortunately didn't. But I think instability at quarterback and really just a rash of injuries doomed Antonio Pierce. But at the Raiders, just give them credit where credit is due. They made the big move for Geno Smith, but everyone's talking about, of course, the Geno Smith deal, the Max Crosby deal, this Koonce deal. I'm going to keep hitting it home because it's so important. It's not always the biggest name guys. It's not always the superstars that come in and just completely flip a franchise because every team, for the most part, is one or two really star players, really good players. It's that next tier, right? It's bringing in that, like, if you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, it's bringing in that linebacker, Zach Bowen, that went on to be a huge player. It's using a second-round pick, I believe, on a corner, Cooper DeJean, and suddenly their secondary goes from terrible to great. You look at the Detroit Lions are a great example of this as well. They signed one running back, they draft one running back, and suddenly their offense is unstoppable. Two moves, neither of them huge headline grabbers, right? It wasn't like number one overall picks. They go from a good offense to an unstoppable offense. It's those kind of second tier moves, not the headline grabbers necessarily, but those second kind of tier decisions that don't get all the buzz, but to me make all the difference. And that's exactly what we're going to get out of Malcolm Kuntz going forward. And Miles, let me pose this question to you because I think it's really important. If you look at this Raiders and specifically the front seven, right? Spillane is gone. That's been reported. He's no longer going to be a Raider. Do you feel they need to make any other moves to this front seven? Or do you think, I think it is good enough as it is. I think they should spend money in some other spots. But do you think you agree with me? You think it's good where it sits? Or do you think they need to make more moves? Should they go all in on the defensive line? What are your thoughts on the Raiders up front here?
I think the starting four for sure up front are definitely good enough. Maybe a linebacker if I'm being generous, but I think corner is more important to them right now. Obviously, they made the moves at safety. I think they're solid. They brought back Paul Amau, who they think was good. They got Jeremy Chin, a former Panther who was a runner up for Defensive Rookie of the Year in 2020, but played on some atrocious teams. So I think they're good there. I think around the ball, maybe a wide receiver is more important. So I'm thinking corner, receiver, maybe the more needs for this team. But and obviously they need to get a running back in here as well. I think Zamir White was good, but he did really bad last year. I think they could use one more running back. But overall, I think the front four especially is absolutely set. This team did really good. It's no doubt, Max Crosby, down year last year. That's the year that, Kuntz wasn't in the fold. I think, Crosby, that not necessarily completely indicative. I think there's a lot of other factors in there playing through injuries, all that kind of stuff as well. But there's the fact that I think Kuntz brought Crosby to his highest graded season ever, that 92.1 PFF grade in 2023. So I think this team is set to be very, very solid up front. I'd be afraid to go up against this front four if I'm any other team in the NFL this coming season.
You bring up a great point about how, we talk about the quarterback position, right? If you got a star quarterback, you got to surround him with weapons. And that's exactly what the Raiders have on defense. They got a superstar in Crosby, but you bring up due to the injuries, he didn't have any help. Like he was surrounded by a lot of backups most of the year in 2024. So what do the Raiders do? What does Spytek and Carroll do? They surround him with weapons, right? They obviously still have Wilkins, but they made sure not to let Kuntz walk. And now Crosby's going to go into a 2025 season very happy, very pleased. He's locked up. That's a done deal. Don't have to worry about that. And he's not going to see as many double teams because Kuntz is going to get attention. Wilkins is a beast, right? This is one of those things that, and I think the point you brought up is so important to highlight as well, is that it's not just the addition of the individual player and the cost of that player and what they bring. It's the unit effect, right? It's all of the other compounding things. Is now that teams can no longer double team Max Crosby every single play. Now Crosby gets 3 more sacks over the course of a season, gets 5 more tackles for loss, 1 more forced fumble. That's worth like 1 or 2 wins by itself right there. Then you throw Koonce's production on top of it. Maybe Wilkins is more productive now too. Maybe the secondary gets more interceptions because of this, right? It's all these compounding effects that really add up to winning and losing. The NFL, despite how dispersed some of the records are, 4 wins, 13 wins, all over the place. These games are so brutally close. The Chiefs went to the Super Bowl, and honestly, the Raiders should have, and barring just that stupid snap and crazy dumb officiating, that final few plays there against Kansas City, the Raiders should have beat them, right? That's how close this league is. The Raiders, I agree with you 100%, are a lot closer than people think. Now, do I think they're a championship team? No, they still need that elite quarterback, but they are right back in the thick of it in terms of contention, fighting for a playoff position. Every move they made this offseason is indicative of that, and I think the future is extremely bright in Las Vegas.